Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. See you all pouring in. My name's Ina Rockinen. I'm the marketing coordinator at Kendis, and today we're joined by Shaq, who's the head of our technical support team, and he will be doing the presentation. And we're also joined by other members of the Kendis support team who will be virtually answering your questions through that questions panel on the right-hand side of your screen, or it might be at the bottom, depending on your screen. Yeah, so this session today is going to be a lot more technical and focused on sharing tips as well as some question and answers. And this will be very helpful since we know that PI planning season has arrived. The recordings for this and our other sessions will be available on our website. There's a link to our webinar page at the bottom of our landing page on our site, and then they're also available on our YouTube channel, and we will also email you those links. If you could hit the next slide, Shaq. We have another upcoming clinic on Scrum of Scrums, and that will be on July 6th. So you can sign up with this QR code now if you want to scan that from your phone, or we will also go ahead and email you that link after this session. There will also be a survey at the end of today. There'll be 2 questions. So one will be asking for suggestions for topics for these clinics. We know you are all enjoying them and we want to hear what you would like to hear so we can continue hosting them. And then the second question will be asking for contact information if you want to schedule a private session talking about your PI planning setup. So yeah, after today, if you have more that you want to ask and more individual, that'll be great. So yes, you'll see that at the end. I am going to hand it off to Shaq for questions today, just to clarify. If you ask questions through that questions thing on your screen, our support team will be able to answer those at any time. And then Shaq is also, while presenting, he's going to prompt you to ask questions using the raise hand feature on your screen. So he'll be like, okay, so are there any questions right now? And if you have one and raise your hand, we will be able to unmute you and you can talk directly to him during those moments. So yes, that was quick, but we have a lot to cover today. So I'm going to give it to Shaq. Shaq, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you. I see already a hand here. So do we need to raise hand? No. All right. Okay, good. Thanks. I know. So today's session is about setting up your PI planning, connecting to your Jira or Azure DevOps, depending on what agile tool your teams are using. I'll then going into the PI planning board, like how to get the features, mapping teams, what are the tips and tricks that we can use for setting up our boards properly. And we also have quite a few functionality in Kendis about setting up your ceremonies, then risk setup objectives, and then in the last part of the session, I'll be covering some tips and tricks, and for example, when to resync, when to use add remove features, and what is like project metadata that we store and when to update that. All right, so let me go ahead and show you. Before we go into the details of creating the board, we do have this extensive help portal, and there is this distributed PI planning using Kendis. There's a checklist, and we are planning to update that. So once, let's say you check that end of the session or tomorrow, you will have an updated checklist. And this is quite good Excel format. You can use that to prepare for your PI planning. There are also video guides available for both Jira and Devops, and you can just follow that. This is just a quick overview of the things that you can do by yourself after the session if you need to. Then Jira integration, I mean, there are quite a few options, as we know, like there is a Jira Cloud, Jira Server, etc. So all these details are covered in the Jira integration section. Okay. Then for the DevOps, there is especially, you need to create a token, etc. We'll also go into the details here, but this is a article describing that. All right, let's start by creating our connection to Jira, or Devops. So from this, by the way, this section is only available to the super admins. So not to the admins, but to the super admins. And you go to the ALM accounts. ALM stands for Agile Lifecycle Management. It's a generic term for like Jira, Devops, or any of the tools. So you select the type. We at the moment support 2 integrations, Jira and Devops. You give the account name. This is like anything to remember, like for example, Jira Connect 2, and you give your URL. For example, in this case, let me see what we have here. And I think it is called this demo.class.net, and you can select different options here: Jira Cloud, Jira Server, or Jira Server OAuth. If you are using Jira Server, we highly recommend to use OAuth. There are detailed help articles available about setting up your OAuth. And here, remember that you just need to give the email ID. You can also use the service account, or you can use something, for example, a user which has rights to different projects. This is used when we are connecting to Jira, for example, fetching the project information, custom fields, etc. So it's quite significant setup, and this is we call it like the main user that you need. So, for example, in this case, I'll just show you over existing one, so we don't need to go through again. For example, this is the API token. To get the API token, you go there. So let's say new token. You create it, you copy paste, and just in this section, you just provide a new token. All right, and then do the test connection. So, for example, I do the test connection here. It will, if it is a valid connection, it will show me the options like to select the story points field. Next gen is also like a team managed projects in Jira, and then you have the due date field. So you can save that and it's ready to be used. Same thing for DevOps. You just need to kind of go to your personal access token. There are, let's say, permissions that we need. It's also available in the help article, but just for your reference, we have this 5 permissions that you need. So you don't need to kind of create a token with the full access rights, right? Okay. Now we jump ahead and create a new board. Before you create a new board, so I mean, there is kind of in Kendis, we call it workflows. Okay. So in general, if you have, let's say, your Jira or DevOps items, for example, features or story points, we will be fetching those statuses from your Agile tool directly, so you don't need to worry about them. However, if you create like a Kendis only item, if you create a dependency or those kind of things, we do provide the option to, let's say, define the workflow in Kendis, because those things don't exist in your Agile tool. So you can, let's say there is one default, you can edit it, or you can also create your own, and you can select the item type from here. Like journal is for Kendis only cards, risk, dependency, and impediments. Okay, so let's go ahead and start the board creation process. So these are board types. At the moment, these are mainly reflecting the terminology. For example, if I select a safe program board, my sprint is going to be called as iterations. If I select Scrum or Scrums, it's going to be Scrum. So it's just the terminology. So for this session, I'm going to use the safe board. I'll say that PI 3 or 4, depending on my PI, and I can also say like mobile or etc. And then depending on which integration I want to use, I can select my Jira or DevOps, right? And go next. By default, let's say, as you saw in my ALM connections, I have 2, one for DevOps, one for Jira, but since I'm creating a Jira board, Kendis only shows me the relevant one. Go here, this is my terminology. If I want to change it, I can change it here, or I can also do that later. Okay, and then I can create a new team. The team here is like a test team. I'm going to just say it here. This is just a label for the team, And later, once the board is created, we will connect to the relevant team in your agile tool. So important thing to remember here is that give a proper prefix. Also remember to select the color here. Okay. So I'm gonna select these my existing teams here, and then by default, based on the let's say terminology I selected, prefills, and I'm gonna select, for example, from 6 to 17 and 3 iterations. Now, what Kendis is showing me is the skeleton. Okay, and once I save it here, what I've done is that I've just created the layout for my board like I would have done that physically. Next step is that I should get the features for this PI for planning, and then also tell Kendis that, hey, which sprints or iterations that I want to plan for this PI, and from where in my agile tool to pick it up. Okay. And this is the important step here. So for the features, I should be creating a filter. That is a recommended step. We do support, let's say, both. If I go here, I can use the JQL, okay, or I can use a filter here, okay. So we do recommend to use a filter over JQL, because if you want to change the criteria, you can easily do that. So while creating the filter here in Jira, there are a couple of things that you need to be aware of. First thing is that you should only select your feature type. Most of the customers use Epic, but some have used like a custom feature, etc. But please do not select the story or bug, etc. So it should only be a feature selection here. And also don't select everything from your whole board. So only select the relevant things which you need to plan. One common, let's say, issue we see is that once user create the epics, they forget to select the permissions. For example, by default in Jira, it's always private. So it's good to give some, let's say, visibility, for example, to your organization, to group, etc. So remember to set the proper permissions for your filter. Okay. So once I've done that, for example, in this case, R2 epics PI4. I will just close this one here. I say that I can also, search by default. For some reason, it showed me the latest one. I go here, and then next step, what I'm doing here is that, by the way, this shows me the count. I can click here, and I can verify that, hey, this is my correct filter that I am adding. So this is an important step. Now, Kendis will bring all the children for this feature automatically, but we need to select what link types you use. If it is Epic, we use the Epic link type. Okay. In Devops, by default, Kendis selects the child link type, and in your query, you only select the features. Okay. So this is by doing this, we are kind of creating, let's say, we are fetching all the features from Jira, and also all related stories to those, let's say, features. Next step is that we can define in Kendis what are my dependencies. Okay, this is more like a link type we have seen is blog by, blogs, relates to, etc. The link types that we plan to use for our dependencies. Then next step is also like some organizations use shared sprint or shared iteration. What it means is that if I create like a sprint in Jira and I use that across all different teams, the same board, same iteration, then I should kind of enable that. And it's not enough to select only the sprint name. I must select a unique, for example, let's say a unique field that you're using in your Jira boards for shared sprint. There is also a help article. You can check that out, and there are complete instructions around this one. Okay. Then there is this blocked or flag field in Jira. There is this impediment field that, so in this project I don't have yet, but you can enable that flag field from Jira. Okay. And then additional fields is something For example, if you want to filter for your let's say fixed variant or something else, or what else we can do, like for story level, if you have used components, or feature level you use like labels, you can select these fields. So these additional fields are visible in the detail view, and also they are visible, or they are there for your filtrations. Okay, so you can filter the contents based on the fixed variable, etc. So once I do that, Kendis will refresh the contents from Jira, and then I will be able to kind of create dependencies, etc. from here. Okay, so far what we have done is that we have done the configuration, we have fetched the features from Jira. Next step is that we need to map the team to the corresponding Jira board. Okay, so there are two options here: by project or by boards. Okay, if you have created a Jira board, which is like a multi-project board, then it's easier to use a boards option. Otherwise, if you know your project, for example, I'm going with these boards. I say like Venus, I can search it, and then Kendis will show me like all the boards which are connected to this project. In this case, I have only one board. And this next one is important to understand. This is just, this will be relevant only in case when we are creating a new item from Kendis to Jira. So this is the default selection. You still be able to create like bug or task from Kendis to Jira, but this is going to be your default option. Okay. And since I selected a a shared sprint field, you see that here it is showing me this value. But in case I'm not using shared sprint field, then let's say if I go to here, this is my existing board. If I show you here, in that case, it's not gonna be any field here. So normally, like most of the customers just select their boards, they select their iterations, and that's it. Okay. Any questions here so far?
Yes, it looks like we have one from Binto. I'm gonna unmute you, Binto, and then there you go. You should be able to.
Thank you. Thank you, Shag. I had a question when you were talking about creating the
Sorry, your voice. Can you repeat about what? Go ahead.
Where you were showing the Jira filter.
Yeah.
So you will select the epics only.
Yeah.
And using the epic link, Kendis will be able to pull all the issues under the epic, right? Now, so now under the epic in Jira, we will have things like stories, we may have tasks, we may have bugs, etc. But is there a way we can filter saying like onto the Kendis board, I need only the stories under the epics. I don't need the bugs which are under this epic.
Yeah. So not at the moment, but this is something which is kind of being investigated by the team to if we can allow some customizations that exclude these item types. For example, if you don't want to see the bugs, you could exclude that at the time when you're adding the filter. But this is something down the road, maybe later this year, we'll offer these exclusions. But at the moment, everything will be available. However, there is one thing which might be helping you in this one is this, I think it's coming quite soon, the options to filter items by item type. So for example, if you have like everything here, stories or bugs, at the moment you can't see what is it. So Kendis assumes that you have all the stories, but yeah, so the item type option will be coming up very soon. No.
Okay, thank you, Shak.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no other questions, I will kind of jump ahead. One thing before we go to the details, especially I think it's quite relevant in the case of this Devops. Companies have kind of predefined or let's say pre-selected the features for each team. And common question we get at support and also like in our sessions with the customers is that how can I filter the features for a particular team? In DevOps, it's quite simple. So what you can do is that there is this filter, and you go to the area path, because Kendis shows you the filter categorization based on like a feature and story separately. So I select area path here, and then I see all the area paths. So for example, if I want to just see like a Team Sky features, I can do it here. So this is helpful in the pre-planning situation, because once you have planned it, you can also use the team filter in Kendis. But let's say you are coming into the PR planning, you have predefined the features for each team. This is what you can do. So for example, I've applied this one. Now I go to the team area. I can switch to the by story view. I can see here and I can start planning. So this is quite handy for the DevOps users. In Jira, what you can do is that you can use this additional field. So for example, if I have, let me see here, if I have like, additional field, for example, for team, etc., I can use that field to filter the content. So there is a quite powerful, there are quite many options available under filter. So please do try out these things. And there is also a help article explaining these things. Okay. Any questions here? Otherwise, we'll jump to the next section, which is going into the ceremonies. Okay. Done. All right. So let's say when you are creating your planning agenda, so the planning agenda is available from this more menu. Okay. And one thing to realize is that this more menu changes based on your state. So for example, when we were in draft, it would show us a few more options, but like in a different order. In the planning agenda, capacity and confidence vote are the main things along with dependencies. So if I go here, this is my predefined agenda, all right? I can see my locations and I can see the description. Maybe this is something we can create quickly here. So on your board, like here, I have nothing. So I go to the planning agenda, I set up. The first thing what you need to do is that you need to select the location. I'll select Helsinki. And then as an option, I can also add other locations. Okay, so for example, I'm going to select San Diego, and I'm going to select Bangalore. And yeah, so the default means that the time selection will be based on Helsinki, and Kendis will automatically translate the time zone or the corresponding values to different time zones. So maybe, for example, we go like this. You can also reorder it. Okay, so Helsinki, Bangalore, San Diego. And then there are templates. You can also do it step by step or use the template. So if we use the template, everything is kind of coming up quite nicely and easily here. And you see, for example, 8 a.m. Helsinki is like 10 p.m. in San Diego and 10:30 a.m. in Bangalore. I can edit. So this is a little bit hidden feature. So if you want to edit an individual row or some other things, you can just kind of go to the edit mode. Now you can see that it's custom, and you can also change the events. You can create new events and etc. So you can play around quite a few options here in this section. Okay, and remember that if you want to add a day or change the location or change the order, you would need to go to the agenda setup tab. Any questions here on agenda setup? And remember that you can also share a public link. So you can create a public link, and then let's say you can share that with the non-Kendis users as well. Okay, and you can choose to hide the attachments, etc. That is what is for the planning agenda. Now, next section is this team capacity. In team capacity, I think we covered earlier as well in one of the sessions, but it's quite simple. So you could select the search the users. You can search the users from Jira as well, let's say. And if something is available, it will be shown here. And you can also create a non-Kendis users here. Okay, so for example, if you have a team member doesn't have account in Kendis or Jira, you can also create this one. And especially it's quite relevant here in case you are using team level capacity. So sometimes organizations don't want to use the capacity per team, per team member, per sprint. Then they can use this workaround. So what I have done here is that I'll just do it like, second team, and I can say that, I can give any email like second at Kendis.io, because Kendis just needs some unique identifier here. And I can select for example, in this team winner spot, I don't want to kind of do a user by user team capacity. I can select a team. I can then give the let's say per sprint iteration, per iteration capacity for this whole team. Okay, this is what the team capacity is. Once I fill up these values, it will be automatically updated in the corresponding sections here. Okay, and the triangle means that let's say the load is higher than the capacity. Any questions on the team capacity? Okay, next thing what you need to kind of go here is this planning Scrum of Scrums. So planning Scrum of Scrums, maybe what I'll do is that I'll just create a new session, like for example, session day 2. I can set the date. I can set the like tomorrow. I can set that time. Yeah, and I can also give the meeting room, let's say meeting room, Zoom link. You can copy the Zoom link here, and it will be created. So once the session is created, you have an option to kind of use a default template, or you can use like from a day 1 or day 2, and also you can use it from the, if you want to copy the answers, you can also use that. So for example, I'm going to say that, you see like in session day 2, it has copied my questions and answers from the day 1. Okay, this is how you can, and you can add the new questions here as well. New question, and it will only be visible in my day 3. So I have quite a few options here. And remember that if a team is blocked on a particular question, you will see this one at the top, and a little bit reddish shade here on the questions. Okay. Then program roles, this is just kind of a common place to share the information, who's the Scrum Master, who are the business executive, etc. And you can also customize that. You can also create, let's say, different roles if you want, as per your organizational needs. Okay, so it's quite straightforward things here, but just to remember, like agenda setup is the main thing where you can define the dates, time, and days. Okay. Any questions on the ceremonies? No. Okay. Maybe then one thing what we can go and discuss is this risk register, like what is it and what you can do. So for example, I am at this board, I haven't not linked my risk register to an existing one or new one. So if I want to create a new one, I need to give a prefix like RK5, like port PR5, and there is a workflow. Remember in the beginning, I showed that this workflow is coming from Kendis, and there is a risk matrix. So Kendis has 2 risk matrices by default. And this is the help article. You can see what are the options here. In risk matrix 1, we have like low, medium, and high. Same thing for the risk probability, and these are the risk levels. So if you are using more like a simplified risk management approach, you can perhaps select the matrix 1. But if you have like a more levels and more options, for example, low, medium, let's say very low, low, medium, high, very high, then you can use the risk matrix 2. And remember that once you select this matrix, you will not be able to switch it to a different matrix. You need to actually create a new register and link it to your board. Okay. And linking, unlinking is quite flexible. So it's not like you're completely tied if you have created it. So you can unlink, create a new one, and link again. Okay. So when you create a new risk, And once you select the options, risk level will be calculated automatically. Okay, and once you have created the risk, you can also link the items in a similar way you would do that for the objectives. Okay? And these are kind of, you can see the total story points for the feature. What is the status? It shows you the basic information about the features or stories that are linked to a registrar. Okay. So this is, and also, I mean, few things to remember here is that there is like a sorting options. You can also filter them. You can filter by team. You can also control, like, you know, which columns you want to see. So for example, if you don't want to see these things, it will be modified here. Okay. So this is a little bit on the risk level. Okay.
I think we have one question, Shaq.
Sure.
I'm gonna unmute Yale. Here we go.
My question was about I have teams that are using different Jira instances on the same agile release train, and can I create one board for them, or how do you suggest to do it?
Okay, so I think it's all right. Maybe I'll go here. So one board is only can only talk to a single instance. It cannot talk to the two different Jira servers, for example. So, for example, in this board, you will only see teams from the same board. However, we have this solution board. I'm not sure if you have explored that option, but in solution board, you can use like a multiple different instances. So for example, I can create, let's say, that's one. So I can create like, this is Devops board. And so have you, while I'm creating it, have you explored solution board option?
Just read about it, didn't see it yet.
Okay, so solution board is your, for example, like PI2A is like my DevOps board, and PI2J is my like a Jira board. Okay, so I can, in this case, I will be able to kind of have the view from two different teams here. Okay, and so what you can do is that you can create two different, let's say this ALM accounts, and maybe we go here. So you go to the ALM accounts. So you create two different ALM accounts. So one for your one instance, second for your second instance, and then create two different PI boards and connect them at a solution board. Does it make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So solution board, yeah, is your way to see information from multiple different let's say boards or multiple different instances, and you will be able to do the dependencies at a solution board as well. Okay.
And you can see the same levels, like features and stories and dependencies, all in the solution board?
So let me try to see something. If I have a solution board available that I can show you. So you will be able to yeah, so it's yeah, so I have this other instance where you can see this solution board. You see, like each board can be connected to different instances. That's not a problem. You see, you will be able to see the dependencies, and if you want to see the details, you go to the here you view details, and in that view you can see all your dependencies, objectives, stories for a team. Okay, and also you have like this by feature view. So now so there are quite a few capabilities available in the solution board. However, this is something which is in active progress, and there are quite nice features coming up later this year on the solution. Okay. For example, you will be able to create a higher level epics or capabilities or themes which are Kendis only, and you can link it to the two different instances in your case. Okay. All right. So I'll continue. Any other questions? Okay. Then we can go ahead and talk about the objectives. I think objectives is relatively simple here, but one thing maybe to like there are you can select the teams, and then you can also create like a custom. So custom is meant to be used, like for example in this case like a PI level objectives, or you can also kind of use that for your let's say release management, etc. So it kind of provides you a better option for different let's say tracking, because with the objectives case you can do let's say these calculations, etc. are quite much available here. So for example, especially this team stories one, if you have created a team level objectives, and if you select this option, it will show you the relevant values. But there is kind of a help article for this one to explain all these options in detail. So I just wanted to highlight a little bit here that what is the team level objective and what is like the custom objectives. Okay, and remember that the objectives are available from this option here under more. Any questions on the objectives? Okay. Then on the, are there any other questions on the objectives? Oops. If not, we can go ahead and talk about the dependencies. So dependencies, I mean, we covered that in detail. I'm not going to do that here, but just to remember that for the people who have not attended the session earlier, to create the dependencies, you can drag and drop here, or you can use like a click here and search the options from this board. Okay, so these are kind of like a basic ways to do the dependency management. Then so far what we have covered is like a basic setup for your PI board, what are the ceremonies, and then how to do the dependencies, how to do the objectives. And then a couple of tips that I wanted to share here is that it's about often we get a question about how do we configure the milestones in Kendis. We do have like a special functionality coming up for milestones, but for now as a workaround, what you can do is that you can go to the settings here, okay, select this additional card types, and I've created, for example, milestones, or you can create from a new one, give a color, and then if we go to this board, what I've done is that I've created a swim lane or a team called milestones, okay? So this is how you can do that here, and you don't need to map that to Kendis, to Jira or Devops. So it's just like a a simple team I created, and then what I can do is that let's say I can say milestone 2. I select a Kendis only card, and from here I select the card type. Once I do that, it's here. I can drag and drop here, and I can also create like a sub milestones if I need to. So thing is that with the milestones, the most important thing is the dates, right? So you can use this due date field for the milestone, save it here, and it's visible on the card. So this is the way you can use at the moment milestones for your PI plan. Okay. Any questions here? All right. Then I think we can talk about this a little bit more, let's say, technical bits here, but it's quite important to understand what is the difference between, let's say, especially for the Jira boards, because for DevOps board, we only have the resync board. So in DevOps, if you hit the resync board, what it will do is that it will check on the Kendis board, what do I have? It will compare it to the DevOps, and then if there are new features to be added from DevOps in your query, it will ask you that, hey, these are the new features that we see in the query. Do you want to add that? You can select it. Plus, Kendis will also update all the items from Devops, like status, story points, etc. So it's quite a heavy operation. On the Jira board, however, these two steps are separated. So when I hit resync, what it will do is that Kendis will show me this part. So this Jira user, so Kendis remembers who has added this, let's say, demo filter or JQL, etc., and it will use this user's credential to resync it. So, for example, if a user has kind of created a board, and during the PI, for some reason, the user has left the organization, and then previously it was not possible to update it because Kendis needs the user, let's say, authentication to update the filters. Now, if the user has left the organization, you can switch it. By default, if you don't need to, don't change these default values and simply continue. Now, Kendis will kind of, resync the whole board. So it will only update, it will not bring new features from your, let's say, JQL or filter. It will only update the items on the Kendis board. And you can also download the Excel. It's kind of a change log. You want to see that before Kendis performs the operation, it shows you what has changed. Okay. So while you are in a PI planning, one common thing is that, for example, I see now 15 features here. If I go to here, right? So let's say I would kind of do now only in progress and to do my account, or let's say just in progress. Okay. And if I save that, and if I run now this option, add remove features, Kendis will compare my contents which are on my Kendis board and the contents which are on the filter, and it will show me the changes between these two ones. So in case you have modified your original PI planning scope and you want to bring those features into your Kendis board, please use this add remove features. So you see here, Kendis is showing me that, hey, these are the features which don't match anymore. By default, they are unselected, so we don't remove them. So you have to kind of make an explicit decision, then proceed. But if you don't want to kind of remove from your Kendis board, you can just kind of proceed without it, right? So this is mainly on this, let's say, add remove features and when to use resync. Any questions here about these two options? So just to summarize, if you see gaps, let's say if your webhook is not configured properly, or if it's not working, there is some lags or differences, use the resync board for the whole board. But there are also options to resync just a sprint. So for example, if I click here, this option, Kendis will only update these two features, right? And if I want to resync the whole swim lane, like all the features which are in this in these sprints or iterations, I can use this resync team data here. So there are kind of 3 levels besides the board: team level, cell level or sprint level, and also an individual feature level resync. Okay, so you don't need to resync the whole board every time you need to see that differences. Okay, so this is what it is for the resync. If there are no questions on this part, I would like to cover this project meta part. Okay, so for example, when you create a board, what Kendis will do is that it will fetch all the item types, let's say fields and link types at the time of when we fetch kind of, let's say when you add a JQL or filter, at that time we do it, and then we cache it. So you don't need to kind of, Kendis does not need to go to Jira all the time to understand what are these values. Now, your PI board is created during the PI execution. Someone added a new link type, or they changed the status, etc. And often you don't see that in Kendis. So for example, if I am updating it here, I only see 3 statuses. So in Jira, if I have added a new status, it will not be visible here. So in order for that to be visible, I need to run this Jira meta. I select my project and I say that update project meta, and Kendis does this. It's very simple and lightweight process. But just remember that if you see the gaps in the custom fields or link types, you need to perform these operations here. In the Devops board, it is done at a, let me duplicate this tab and show you in the Devops case. So for example, if you, same thing, what I repeated here. So if I do it in the DevOps, like if I made any changes in the DevOps, what I can do here is that I can go here, DevOps project, and I can click on the resync option here. When I do the resync, Kendis will fetch like new statuses, link types, fields, etc. from DevOps. Okay. So these are the things. Okay. Any questions here?
Yes, we have one. I'm going to unmute Bento again.
Sure.
Yes, Shaq, this is regarding the sync topic that you discussed a couple of minutes ago. So when you're doing the sync at a team level or a sprint level, this is, if my understanding is correct, I need to do this only if the set of stories under the feature has changed in Jira and I need to reflect those changes. But I've seen, do we need to do this kind of sync in case dependencies have changed in Jira or there are other changes at story level? Do I need to do this sync, or can this will automatically pick up the story changes, dependencies changes, etc.?
Kendis will pick up those changes automatically, so you don't need to do that. However, it's an asynchronous process between Jira and Kendis. So sometimes if the webhook is overloaded on Jira side, it didn't kick in, etc. So in case you see the gaps, then you should do it. Okay. So it's only on the need basis as your backup.
Okay, but if we have added stories or deleted stories, or from the Jira epic in Jira, then we definitely need to run this, correct?
No, you don't need to. So if I create a new story in this feature, it will come up automatically as well.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
Only thing which will not come automatically is this if I change the query contents. Okay, so if in my query in Jira there are 18 features, they will not come up automatically here. I will still be seeing 15. And in order to get those features, you need to run add remove features or go to here and run this check changes operation. Because Kendis has this scope changes, etc. So we don't want to kind of automatically add or remove features. So it needs to be decided by the responsible user for this PI.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We have one more. I'm going to unmute Yale again.
Hi. Question about filtering the feature list that came from Jira. So in many cases, the features are assigned to teams before the planning session. So you have a list of features that came in, but some of them originally are going to one team and some of them are going to another team. So the question is, how can we filter the feature list for the different teams?
Sure. So what you can do is that, for example, you can enable additional fields. Okay. You can use like, are you using any specific custom field in Jira to distinguish between team features? Is it like a custom field? Like I have this team list. Do you have something like this?
We should.
Yeah, because, because in Jira, you cannot kind of say that it's team specific unless you have some way. So as an example, in my case,
or component,
team list.
Or either a team list or component.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Anything. So you can select up to 5 fields here, any 5 fields. Okay. So this is your workaround. So once you do this one, then in Kendis, once I save it, it resyncs, etc. I will be able to filter based on these fields. So those fields will come automatically in this list, and I can, for example, it is now done. I see it here, and you see like this custom fields, like these features will be, these additional fields will be available on this board. Okay, so you can use that additional fields filtration option. Okay.
Thank you.
So it is at the bottom here. So, and the first is the default filters. You see, I added two fields, components and team list. It's visible here. I select if I have any relevant features for this one. In this case, there were none, so it didn't kind of update it. So if I go to Jira and I update that, it will be filtered. So this is your way to kind of filter the features for each team. Any other questions? Okay. If there are none, so I can cover a couple of interesting points. So in our, let's say, let me see, this is the whiteboard I have. Yeah, it's not one. So at the moment, let's say if you're using our new feature like Scrum of Scrums, or let's say, and their impediments, you will be able to assign non-Kendis users. For example, the ones that we created for team capacity or for any other purpose, you will be able to assign non-Kendis users to your impediments, right? And we are expanding that option. So you will be able to kind of in future assign like a responsible, at the moment it's only Kendis users, but you will be able to assign dependencies to non-Kendis users as well. This is just an upcoming feature later this year. Okay. And remember that there is this checklist. It's quite useful. Like for example, it reminds you need to make sure that resync feature board option is not available to everyone at the whole level. Then if you have, while you're creating board, like you have followed certain things, it's a good checklist in an Excel format if you want to use it. Okay. All right. Aina, do we have any questions?
Nope, none at the moment.
Oh, none at the moment. Okay. All right. If nothing else, then yeah, we can close the call 7 minutes earlier. Thank you very much. Over to you, Aina.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, we're just getting some thanks in the question box is awesome. There'll be an end survey again, so go ahead and put in suggestions if you have any for clinics, as well as your contact info if you want a separate call about your PI. Yeah, and go ahead and register for this upcoming event. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, we'll just close it out now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.